Welcome to Continuing Conversations, a podcast presented by VCU Continuing and Professional Education. I'm Connor Lobb, and on this show, I'll be interviewing different leaders in the field of continuing education. This is part 3, the final part of my talk with Dean Broga, head instructor and dojo cho at Richmond Aikido Kai. We'll wrap up our conversation about Aikido and life here. Thanks so much for listening to the full conversation. Welcome to Continuing Conversations, a podcast presented by VCU Continuing and Professional Education. I'm Connor Lobb, and on this show, I'll be interviewing different leaders in the field of continuing education. If that's the third time you've heard this intro, thank you very much, and that means this is part 3 of my talk with Dean Broga, head instructor and dojo cho at Richmond Aikido Kai. We're going to finish up talking on Aikido. He's going to share a little bit more of his personal experiences dealing with difficult people with Aikido-like principles and a little bit more to top it off. So again, this is the third part of the conversation with Dean. Thanks so much for sticking around for all 3 parts, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
When I was doing my doctoral degree, I had a faculty member on my committee who came from a very rich family, and he was kind of in academia for,
being rich,
just because he had everything else to do, he could had his own plane and everything else. And he used to, for that, he was on all these national committees. He was like, well, we need to send someone with me. We'll send this guy because it doesn't cost us everything. And that's just great. So I'd come back for my dissertation discussions with these ideas from these meetings. And he was one of those guys who would say, well, I heard that they've done this research here. Have you considered that? Well, this is like a death throw to a PhD candidate, because he can now take you out on a tangent and you can waste 3 months answering his question, which actually has nothing to do with your dissertation, your research.
And what was your PhD in?
Nuclear engineering and medical physics.
Oh, cool. Right.
And so I had a thesis for my master's degree, and I had a very good committee chair. So I knew something about kind of disarming these things, Now, a naive student would get just bowled over by this. And this kind of stuff that causes a lot of people to never finish their graduate degrees because they get buried. They get lost they do all their coursework, and then they're finishing their thesis or their dissertation seems impossible, especially if it's research related. But I had learned to disarm this guy. I do exactly what you said. Well, Dr. So-and-so, I understand it, but why do you think that's specifically applicable to my research? And how do you think I should approach that? So I get him away from making this random off his head comment and throw the problem back in his boat. Okay, tell me what you think I should be doing in specifically. And he'd just be going, well, maybe you should just consider it. But okay, problem's off the table, that's gone. Let's move on. Till the next meeting, he'll come up with a new thing.
So listeners, here is a real reason to learn about Aikido, so you can deal with people doing that kind of stuff to you, because it's like, that's some realness. You know what I mean? That's like goes beyond. I think people maybe are like, when am I gonna need to defend myself, physically? But it's like, you need to maybe defend yourself in your work context or for your PhD in a different way. And here is an awesome method to be able to fend off people dragging you on tangents or ruining your projects or doing whatever just through this redirect. That's kind of what you did.
You're back to the same thing. I need to calm down, get control of my breathing, start thinking and not being upset. Because the guy's upset you, and now you're not thinking, well, anyway. As soon as you start getting upset and your adrenaline starts to going, you're losing.
Like, well.
You want to argue.
Yeah, you're like, well, let me.
With a member of your advisory committee. You don't want to argue with a member of your advisory committee.
Not at all.
To convince him that you don't want to do this. I don't want to spend a month looking up this reference, which has nothing to do with my research, except you had it as a thought when you were at a meeting eating cookies or something, and now you feel a need to make a comment during my committee meeting, so and that was typical of so many committees I was on. I always felt it was important to put a devil's advocate on a committee that keeps you honest, because I went to too many meetings where everybody agreed.
Like, oh yeah,
they were all wrong. Just because you agree doesn't make you all right. It means you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm.
You're breaking the law, but the 9 of you agree that's okay. But when the regulatory shows up, they're not going to agree with you. So
100%.
a committee of fools don't make foolish decisions, but we all agree we're in the right place.
I was telling Dean before we started recording, he needs to have his own podcast, and I just want to reiterate that with wisdom. But so we have our 1 credit introductory courses that we offer in partnership with your final organization. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those courses? They're offered through VCU.
Yeah, so we have a 1 credit course that's offered every semester. We have 2 sessions, a Tuesday night and a Thursday night session. So there's an opportunity for 2 different times. And we do require the students to attend 15 hours of class because it's a physical education class. So you make up classes that you miss. We do 15 hours. We do cover these learning processes too. We do have them do some reading and working and thought concepts as well. Students train with each other as we get less COVID based, more and more. We're working with that. So we do. It's not a class for someone who doesn't like intimate contact, because Aikido is an intimate martial arts. People right on top of you, they're throwing you, they're grabbing your hand. If that's something that bothers you, that's not a martial art for you. If you like that kind of contact, that's a good martial art. And that goes back to my stating about oxytocin. But I've had people sign up for it and they don't want anybody to touch them, and I'm going, well, you picked the wrong class. Okay. Usually it's also a physical challenge. I usually say to people, say, can I do Aikido? I say, well, looking at them physically, I say, can you lay down and get up 20 times? Okay. Because that's what Aikido class is like. You're rolling, you're getting up, you're rolling, you're getting up. And it's very good physical exercise from that point of view. I even have people come and say they're taking karate, and I'll say, well, yeah, but can you get up from the floor 10 times in a row? Because you don't get up from the floor in karate. It's physical, but they'll come and say, you don't have the muscles and tendons involved in getting off the floor.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'll say, and that's the first test for whether you need to be put into assisted living. If you can't get up from the floor without help, you're a candidate for assisted living. Number 1 skill. Lay down, Gramps. Can you get up without using the chair or the couch? Okay, we got a problem.
So what do you enjoy about teaching that course? Because it's with young, predominantly younger college students. So what's fun for you about teaching those kids about all these cool philosophical ideas and situational awareness concepts?
A significant portion of them enjoy the course and really think about other things, and I think move on. And I would like them to walk away with those thoughts. I would like them to walk away with the intent to do something like this for the rest of their life. Because I said, I think all adults need some break to get away from things, go to Aikido, karate, painting, whatever, especially if you're an older adult and you're married, you need your time, your space. It's important to your mental health to have something that's your own. And Aikido is a very positive environment for that. And it's very communal, positive environment. We make lots of friends and meet lots of people. I have friends from all over the world now. And it's just been a super positive thing. And so I'd like the students to go away with the concept, this is something I'd be interested in, because I know they're not going to learn that much about Aikido really in a semester, 15 hours. But hopefully they'll this year, next year, get out working and pursue more of this or something along this line, and try to teach them that physical activity and doing something as an adult is an important part of your life. Just don't become, a couch potato who just reads, watch TV and doesn't do anything. It's important, and it challenges you. We all need to be challenged regularly by something. If there's 2 things that we know about longevity is diet is an important thing. We shouldn't eat regularly. We should stress our body off and on, and we should mentally and physically stress ourselves off and on. DNA repairs itself under those conditions. Eating all the time and doing the same thing and not challenging your body is not good for you, not good for your longevity. So
That's what we want.
fasting has become a very popular thing, and I totally agree with that. We have a starvation metabolism. We've had it for 100,000 years. It exists, and it's good to work it and change your body to force it to think, to do those things. And we have a physical challenge that's been there also. We've always been physical beings. And as a surviving physical beings, you didn't go out and run track. You ran when you needed to run, and you didn't run when you didn't need to run. And I think that kind of physical training is short interval fast training is a valuable concept. And Aikido does it. You go to a class, you're going to roll a lot, you're going to do a lot of physical exercise, you're going to make good friends, you're going to learn how to defend yourself, you're going to learn how to think about problems and work with them and work towards solutions. And those are all real positive things.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, I'm sitting over here like, maybe I should, because I did it right before the pandemic, and then everything was crazy for a year and a half, and still is crazy. But maybe I don't know.
And it's been crazy because in Aikido we do use weapons.
Yeah,
I hate to use the word weapons because they're not weapons for fighting. What training with weapons in Aikido is a way to reinforce and improve your foundational skills. And the weapon, the Jo, which is my favorite weapon, your opponent is not the weapon, your opponent is gravity. And you use the gravity's force on the weapon to redirect and move the weapon and balance the weapon in the way you want it, to move your feet and your breathing and your hands in the same forms that you use in Aikido. So it's a way of practicing without a partner. Your partner is gravity. When I let my Jo extend and let the end loose, it's going to fall. How do I take that force of gravity and redirect it in the direction I want to use it in?
And is a Jo like a staff?
A Jo is just like a staff that's about as high as your shoulder.
That's cool.
And we also have the Boken, which is a wooden sword. And that's all about form and structure and movement and strengthening your grips and your postures. It's really, I hate to use the word weapons because I'm pretty sure you're not going to run into someone with a sword at McDonald's.
Right.
So, the concept that you're going to use these as weapons on the street. And we really don't fight with those weapons. We use with forms with those weapons. Some of those forms are aggressive.
Yeah.
And they do teach you about self-defense. I mean, someone swinging a stick at your head will teach you about defending yourself and balance, and again, staying under control. Right. And, you can see that when we're taking a Jo attack structure where you're defending yourself and pick the pace up and cause the person to start moving. With newer students, if you start moving, they start getting all shook up and out of control because they're not used to someone coming and moving. And something will teach you control as a stick being swung at your head. If you can learn to block the stick, think and move, then you're learning something very valuable about controlling yourself and using your brain under pressure and not letting your fear control you. And the stick coming right at your head will get your attention. Yeah, well, all people are shrieking, in fear when you're starting, and they're convinced they're going to kill you. And as I tell the students, we haven't had a student die in a year, so don't worry about all this.
It's been 30 days since our last accident.
It's been 30 days since our last accident.
Slightly tangent, but the Aikido and the Jo are actually featured prominently in the later seasons of a television show called The Walking Dead, which is about zombies.
Oh yeah, well, I actually am dead, but that's okay.
The main character, one of the characters, learns Aikido and to fight with a Jo to fight the zombies. So yeah, everyone, this martial art has infinite applicability.
If we're taken over by zombies. Oh, the Jo can be a very powerful weapon if you want to use it. And so can the Boken. I mean, Boken's harder than a Louis Slugger. I mean, it'll crack your head open. Yeah. And a Boken is a Japanese hard white oak grown at high altitude, so its density is extremely high. I mean, if I was to take one of our Jo jabs or whatever, I'd break your ribs. I'd fracture your head. I mean, but you don't walk around with a Jo. And you don't walk around with a sword
unless there's zombies.
Yeah. You're. Well, I happen to have one on my back door, but that's a different issue.
Yeah. Hey,
I'm knocking on my back door.
It's a crazy world. Don't come to Dean's house.
This dangerous place.
Stay away.
But, yes, if you took a Joe and went to a situation where you're going to defend yourself, it'd be a super weapon.
Yeah.
It's a super weapon because it can be very poignantly placed with a great deal of force, especially if you use your body as part of the attack. And that's, again, something a Joe is teaching you. You just don't shove the Joe forward without a strong connection to your body and your center, or else it's not going to work well. You can't take a bokken and cut through two pigs like they do on that weapons show they have. You won't make it through if you don't know how to balance your body and drive your force of your body into the weapon. You won't make it through the two pigs.
Doesn't this sound cool, everybody? I'm saying, doesn't this sound cool, everybody? Aikido just sounds awesome. You learn so much. I love it. So is there anything you would like to add to this discussion? Any more fun tidbits or facts? Or just general wisdom for the people?
I think Aikido is a great martial art. Anybody who'd like to visit the dojo, we don't, you can come 2 times without any obligation. We are, of course, coming out of the pandemic, so our contact is physically less limited. But I think any martial art is a positive thing. I think all of the people really should think about getting themselves physically involved in something as an adult, just to keep your body centered. Don't be all cerebral. Be physical. They're both valuable to you.
Don't become a giant floating brain, everyone.
Yeah, who's good in the movies. Well, you don't, really, when you talk about another area of my interest in mindfulness is consciousness. And consciousness is more than the brain. I mean, that's such a misnomer about the body. Consciousness involves all of your senses, all of your senses. It's not just the brain. Your conception of where you are and what you're doing and how you feel is a lot more than just what's going on in your brain. Your brain's being fed, information from your entire body, which is informing your concept of your consciousness. And when you interfere with any of those, you change your consciousness. And so learning to appreciate them. I mean, you can't stop yourself from hearing. You're going to hear sound. It's going to be there. How does it affect you? You're going to feel temperature. They're all there. They're part of the conscious. We get focused on the brain, and the brain is not a digital process. I would get a whole thing on artificial intelligence, but the human body is a linear machine. It's not a digital machine. The only thing digital about the human body is DNA, as far as I'm concerned. DNA is a 4-piece digital scale that's used in the body. Then that's how the body builds itself. But everything else is analog. Your neurological system is analog. In fact, I was shocked to see that Google Maps, in order to produce the maps that you see on your phone with the red and green traffic signals, that's analog. They have to take all those digital signals and make them analog, because the digital signal doesn't do that. And so many things today that you see on the computer are converted back to analog because they need to work in that fashion to correlate to how we see things. And we get overwhelmed in that process as well. So yes, your consciousness is about your whole body, not just your brain. And to not appreciate that, you're really limiting your consciousness. You're really limiting how you're functioning as a human being, misconstruing how your brain and body work together.
But if that's not a sales pitch for Aikido, I don't know what is. That was incredible. It was very fun talking to you, Dean. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to part 3. I hope you enjoyed all the episodes. Don't forget to check out Richmond Aikido Kai if you want to learn more about Aikido, and visit ocpe.vcu.edu/courses if you want to learn more about taking a course through VCU. Thanks again for listening, and have a good weekend.